Okay, so let's do part 2 now of the lecture. And we're going to focus on the next standard, which is Language Standard 5. And so again, as I talked about last week, all of you will be responsible for Language Standard 4, 5, and 6. While English will be taking more of the bulk of Standard 5 because there's a part of Standard 5 that addresses figurative language. The rest of you will not do that, but you will be responsible for teaching this part, which is analyze nuances in the meaning of words with similar denotations. Now, what does that mean? And so I'm hoping that I can go through this and explain it as well as provide some examples. So one of my favorite activities that I would do with students is called the spectrum activity. And so looking at the word eager, and you take students and just take this word eager, and this could be done with reading, right? And so let's say eager, in your reading, you have the word eager and you have some of these other words that have similar denotations, which means they have similar definitions. They essentially mean the same thing, but there's some slight nuance in, their meanings. And so you want to essentially look at these words, and what you would do is put them on a spectrum. And so if in a text, right, so they're looking at a text, you might say, okay, so I see eager and excited, what's the difference, right? You would stop and say, okay, let's put this on a spectrum, right? So let's look up eager, let's look up excited, and let's see what these two definitions mean. And then we can say, okay, on a spectrum, eager is more this, excited's more this. I also would do this for writing, right? And so if students are writing and you want their vocabulary to be richer in their production, same thing, right? I would have them, if I had a word in there that I just felt like which wasn't precise enough, like eager, I might highlight that and say, I think there might be a different word, a more precise word that has a, again, similar denotation, but I think is a little bit more exact on what you're trying to communicate here. And I would use the spectrum activity. Okay, so let's go look at the synonyms for this word. They look them up, have them kind of define the differences and then put them on a spectrum and then decide within the context of the writing in which you are writing, which word seems to better describe what it is that you're trying to communicate. So the spectrum activity, great activity. Last one, simple Venn diagram, right? So you take two of the words, ardent, and desirous, and again, look up those definitions and try to, again, analyze the nuances between those words, right? What are the differences between these two words? What are the similarities? And students then have to kind of determine, again, from meaning and for production, those nuances. And so it's helping them develop that standard 5. So I hope these are some basic strategies for addressing that very brief standard.